issue because they haven't dealt with it. We went for 3 years without a legislative inspector general, and I don't see anything going on right now that shows we're going to have a replacement for the one that's in there on an interim basis. We need to solve that problem. The statute that governs how that office works and the ethics commission that will make those decisions is very, very weak and not independent. So I would start there as Attorney General. But the issue of sexual harassment goes well beyond that, right? We know we have issues at, for example, the foreplay. And so we need to make sure that we are dealing with it on a global basis. The Trump administration's really pulled out of any kind of support or proactive prosecution of these kinds of incidents on a nationwide basis through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It's basically a hollow shell of what it once was. So the Attorney General is going to need to step in there and to try to protect women all across the state in various walks of life.
Thank you very much. Highland Park Mayor Rodering.
Thank you, Kwame, for bringing us back to sexual assault as well as sexual harassment. And sexual harassment has no place in business, in government. The Attorney General's office needs to change the Human Rights Act to make sure that all employers are captured under the prohibition against sexual harassment. I'd put in place a hotline, and I'd also create a new law so that if there were serial sexual harassers, they would be treated as predators. But most importantly is your question about sexual assault. That is a crime. We need people who understand the difference between sexual harassment and sexual assault, and what sexual assault means to the people and their families who have been victimized. We need to recognize the need for resources for sexual assault nurse examiners in the emergency room, for having advocates and protectors in the courtroom and after the courtroom, and giving people the safety to report and deal with these criminals. 6% of rapists go to jail, 6%. The other 94 are still out there harming people and destroying lives. We know that rape kits have languished for years on the shelves. This evidence needs to be brought forward and criminals need to be put away.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Representative Drury, thank you so much.
The fact that this is even a question sickens me. The fact that I'm part of a government where the leader of the General Assembly basically condones this conduct sickens me. I proposed a law in November, the height of the Me Too movement, when it first came out. It said we need to have an independent special counsel in the state of Illinois to do a statewide investigation of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and if people need to go to jail, I don't care if they're politicians, they should go to jail. And Speaker Madigan's chief of staff quashed it. At the very same time I was trying to get that legislation passed, Elena Hampton's letter was crossing ways with my legislation. Is that why he didn't want that legislation to pass? And so now there's been calls for an independent investigation. And you know what the Speaker said? I'll do that, I'll handle that. Does anyone think that that man, who's going to pay for his own independent counsel, is really going to let his independent counsel look at him? His daughter didn't. His daughter didn't. We need independence. We need people who have pushed the envelope. There are too many people in this state who are too scared of him. And I have shown that I'm not, and I'm sure we will get real results. We will turn this state around and have a state that works for you.
Thank you, Representative. Again, a round of applause for our candidates. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Reese, I'm sorry.
Mr. Reese. I commend Representative Jury, and we have two members of the General Assembly right here. I hope they would reintroduce a bill asking for an independent counsel, appropriating the funds to do that. And as soon as you guys get back to Springfield, I hope you guys will do that and make sure that we do have an independent investigator.
And I hope you'll come down and lobby with me.
I will. We'll be down there. And so I hope you guys will do that. And they do have to have an independent investigation of anybody. There must be zero tolerance, and there should be no hostile workplace in government or the private sector. And we also need to make sure, again, that's on the sexual harassment or on sexual assault, which is a felony, Class X felony, that we have to have the resources for those victims to make sure they can come forward, feel safe, provide, so we stop being 49th or 50th out of 50 states for state-supported public education, make sure social workers are in schools because a lot of these victims are fairly young, and make sure we're educating both boys and girls on what appropriate conduct is, so that when they grow up to be respectful people who do not victimize each other.
Thank you very much. Again, round of applause for our candidates. And then we're going to our next question with our next panelist, and that is Minister Michael Muhammad, President of the New Black Leadership Coalition.
Thank you. My next question this. The Attorney General's office has a little over 800 employees, around $80 million budget. They, somewhere between 20 and $30 million of that is payroll. Two-part question. One, do you know, out of all of that, how many black people are employed by the AG's office? And secondly, what would you do specifically to increase the hiring of black attorneys, paralegals, and other paraprofessionals within the Attorney General's office?
Great question. One of the reasons why, let me just say this and then we'll go to, one of the reasons why we're doing this at Chicago State University, because this forum at this particular university is about nobody but black people at this time. We hear this term minority all the time. And minority means what? White women, Latinos, and African Americans have systematically lost all of their collateral in any of these agencies. You have to remember that the reason why you have an African American middle class wasn't because of the benevolence of the private sector. It was because of the public sector. Am I right? And so what we have seen systematically is African Americans being pushed and not welcomed into these municipal positions. So I get what you were saying, Minister, because that is important. So let's answer the question and let me see. Where should I start now? Should I start with Mr. Goldstein? Ms. Fairley, okay. I will start with Attorney Fairley.
So there are approximately 760 full-time employees at the office, and about 380 of those are attorneys. I'll tell you how I would approach this, and this is what I've done throughout my career as a business leader and also as a leader of a government agency. In order to bring more diversity, there's a lot of things that you have to do. First of all, you need to go out and recruit in a way that you're going to create a pool that's diverse. So you can't just sort of limit yourself. You have to identify and go out and recruit at places where you're going to find qualified candidates that do have the qualifications that you need and also the diversity that you have. And sometimes you have to create a pipeline of that, which means you're going to have to go out and actually try to mentor people and attract them into these government positions, because people sometimes don't know what the career possibilities are. People might not understand that working at the Attorney General's office is an opportunity for them. You have to do that through mentorship and through belonging to organizations that support students. So there's an array of things that you need to do to bring diversity into an organization. And then of course, once people are in that organization, you need to support them. You need to make sure that you have a talent management program in place to make sure that they are getting the professional opportunities that they need and the training that they need to progress in their career. The other thing that's important about the office is the office actually hires a lot of attorneys to do work for the office. And so that group needs to be diversified as well. And I was part of doing that when I was the Chief Administrator of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, bringing in more lawyers, minority lawyers to do the work that we did. So there's a number of ways that diversity has to be addressed by the Attorney General.
Thank you, Counselor. We actually, Senator Raoul, you have to leave here at 3 o'clock, so I'll allow you to answer.
Excuse me. Pardon me. I just need to clarify my question.
Okay.
My question is not a general question about diversity. My question is a specific question about the employment and retention of black legal professionals in the Attorney General. Black people being hired in the Attorney General's office. Thank you.
Everybody.
They all have to?
Yes.
Of course, me too. Well, we're coming to a close. And I wasn't expecting that. So, can all of you will have an opportunity to answer this question. We'll start with you, Senator Raoul.
I'll hire them, you know, point blank. And how you know is I've worked on the pipeline. I'm on the board of Legal Prep Charter School right now. So if we're not starting to work with them in high school, which is on the west side of Chicago, then they're not going to be interested in college and go to law school. I've also helped a pipeline program that's sponsored by my law school, Chicago-Kent College of Law, that deals with college kids who are African American interested in law school. And then finally, I've traveled with Senator Claiborne, Clayton Harris, and a gentleman by the name of Peter Baroni to Howard University. So we don't just do it around here. You got to go to where you're going to find the blacks law graduates. And so I've done that and brought resumes back to Chicago for not just the Attorney General's office, but for different public agencies in Chicago.
All right,
So I'll continue to do what I've been doing.
Thank you very much. I understand that you guys have another forum in Peoria, so that's a long ways away. So let's start with you, Mr. Goldstein. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Minister, for the question. I don't know the exact numbers as far as percentages of black legal professionals in the Attorney General's office. What I can tell you is that's a main priority. Because if you're going to be for the people, you got to have the people working in the office actually doing the work. So on first level, it's hiring, and that's crucial, and recruitment has been talked about. That's obviously very crucial. Number two, and this is sort of under the radar, it's the policies that you have as Attorney General. If you're fighting for racial justice, if you're fighting for the people to actually get rid of some of the racist things that are going on in this society, I think you're going to attract more attorneys that want to be part of that mission, and I will do that. The third part of that is not just hiring, it's promotion too. So don't hire someone at entry level, keep them at entry level and say my numbers are great. I want them to be supervisors, managers, first assistants, all the way to the top. So that's really the three component part of it.
Thank you very much. Let's go with the Mayor, Robert. Thank you.
It can't be about you without you. If you're going to represent the people, you need to be of the people, and the office needs to look like the people that you're representing and the people that you're advocating for and with. As a mayor, I have a budget about the same, $90 million, 277 employees. We are as diverse as they come, and we do that because that's who we are serving, that's who we represent. It's important to create programs for students so they can see their future. It's important to be the mentor for those who are just working through their beginnings of their leadership lives, whether they're being involved in their community, whether they're being appointed to commissions, whether they're being mentored to go towards college, and once they're in school, having that support structure. Every person up here had somebody who believed in them and who was there for them. You can't do it alone, and you need to be committed to making sure that people have other people who are going to work with them and bring them into the system.
Thank you, Mayor. And now we'll go to Representative Drury.
Scott Drury. Look, I want to have the best Attorney General's office in the country. And so selfishly, the only way to accomplish that is to have an Attorney General's office where the people working there look exactly the same as the community. Because what have we been talking about for like the last hour and a half? It's about trust. It's building trust in the communities. It's about building trust with the public. If everybody making decisions is a white male, and then there is an investigation about Laquan McDonald, and you come and you see white male, white male, white male, and the decision doesn't go your way, then you're not going to trust the system. So selfishly, like, you don't have to believe what I'm saying, but believe that my goal is to have the best Attorney General's office in the country. I'm sick of hearing about New York and what New York is doing. I want to hear about Illinois and what we're doing. And to do that, I am committed to hiring the best people that reflect the diversity of this state, and that has to include a large population of African American males and females. It just has to. It just has to. We can't deal with the issue of Laquan McDonald if we don't deal with the issue of who is making the decisions about those investigations. That's my commitment to you, and because I hope you believe that my goal is to have the best office, that you know I'll act on that.
All right, thank you very much. And we have Mr. Ruiz.
Jesse Ruiz. It's something I've always done throughout my career, because I realized I got the opportunity to grow up in Roseland and have opportunities to go to college, go to law school, because people open doors for me. You know, I think I'm a smart guy. There are a lot of smart people in the world. The only difference between them and me is that I got a chance. So it's about creating opportunities. So when there was a young African-American man who was a clerk at CPS when I was on the board there, and he expressed to me an interest in wanting to become a lawyer like me. I took him under my wing. We coached him through the process. I introduced him to the former president of Northwestern University, and Henry Beenan was on the board. I told Henry, you got to help me get him in. He's a bright kid, but he needs a break. And I'm proud that he's a lawyer today. Graduated from Northwestern Law School.
Wow.
When I was chairman of the Chicago Committee on Minorities Large Law Firms, following Deb Tellman, who's now the general counsel of Johnson Controls, Adrian Pitts, now the general counsel of Loop Capital Markets, I was proud to work with them to promote diversity. It's hard, though, because the numbers don't exist. I've done it, and you ask Alan, we've worked hard to bring in African-American lawyers in our firm. We bring them in, but then corporations poach them and take them. And we got to keep working on that pipeline. That's why I've always believed in public service and public education. We got to, grow the pipeline and then make sure we open doors for others, like doors have been opened for ourselves.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Mariotti?
Early in the campaign, I publicly pledged to have an Attorney General's office that looks like the state of Illinois. And I did that because when I talked to people who are currently employees there, they said, for example, that there aren't very many women of color, particularly African American women, in supervisory positions at all in that office. And I think that's a problem. I think it's a problem. Frankly, what it's telling people, the people you're representing, the people you're fighting for, is that they aren't part of your solution. They aren't part of they have no part in the fight, in the job of fighting for them and being their attorney. So I've committed to doing that, and that includes, by the way, people who are convicted felons. I mean, that's a stigma that people are not hiring convicted felons. We have an over-incarceration issue here in Illinois, and frankly, that's somewhere where we can set an example. So I've tried to do that with my staff. We've talked about that earlier, how I've tried to hire staff that reflect the diversity of the state, and I want to do that as Attorney General as well.
Thank you, Counselor. And last but not least, Mr. Governor Quinn.
Well, I was born on the south side. I live in the west side. For the last 35 years, I lived in Austin. I know my neighborhood. The people know me. Every public office I've held, state treasurer, lieutenant governor, governor, I've hired men and women from the African American community because they believe in what we're doing. As Aaron said, we're going to get good lawyers at the Attorney General's office, and folks can help those lawyers because we're going to take on the utility companies. I don't take campaign money from them. We're going to take on the currency exchanges that have unfair fees. I don't take campaign money from them. We're going to take on the red light camera operators who are cheating people, who have to take a day off of work to contest a $100 ticket that isn't fair. That's why people are going to come to me, and I'm going to recruit them for our cause. We're going to take on Trump. We're going to make sure that we go after assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition magazines. You got to have a fighter at the Attorney General's office. And I'm not a shrinking violet. I know how to take on these big shots and win for the everyday person. Thank you.